plays Blizzard, Shady plays Blizzard. He is too while watching reboots with Shady plays Blizzard.
The hell? Yeah, I was gonna try and animate the whole theme song when I first heard of it, but it only got officially announced less than 3 weeks before release, so I didn't have the time. Like, this felt shadow dropped. Maybe one day I'll do the whole thing. But back to the subject, The Fairly Odd Parents is a show that I genuinely feel doesn't get the credit it deserves now. It was one of the most popular and beloved shows on Nick during its prime seasons, and a part of people's childhood. But largely what happened after affected its reputation after its hiatus, where the writing slowly got worse and worse and filled with more what I'd call butchisms. Just repeated aspects of Butch Hartman's style of writing that encompasses stuff like annoying yelling, over-reliance on running gags, making this up to a joke so obvious it's clear where it's going. And of course the infamous seasons 9 and 10, which introduced new main characters that people found insanely annoying and hated, plus lots of in the constant controversy Butch Hartman has to fall into again and again. And that's really affected Fairly Odd Parents' reputation, but I don't think that's fair. I've rewatched the first 5 seasons and they were pretty great despite a few bad ones here and there. Hell, you might even know some of my submissions to the Fairly Odd Parents Out of Context Twitter account. Here are some of my favorites.
To the Nuda Scooter!
Oh no! I can't suit! I'm doomed!
Well, you lived a good life, right?
I'm only 10!
I said good, not long.
No! I can't be locked in a room with children! I'm not a people person! I'm barely a person! Help!
You got her up 4 hours late for her medicine?
Uh-huh. At first she was real mad, then she got real quiet.
Today's Art Appreciation Day. Here's the art. I'll appreciate it!
And how is this Ghostbusters 2?
And despite how formulaic the show was, it did have some pretty smart writing and plots, not to mention a cynical edge to it that gave it a leg up amongst other shows in that era. I think it has the reputation of just being kinda dumb comedy, but it really was enjoyable to watch. I don't think it deserves that stigma. But the way it ended definitely left a bad taste in many people's mouths, and people thought it should have ended a long time ago. But then we got a live action reboot that literally no one asked for a while ago. Trying it once with Drake Bell was bad enough, why would you do it again? Also, I'm pretty sure it got straight up removed from Paramount Plus now. How is it that the Ned's Declassified cameo looks better? But we got a new fully animated reboot, A New Wish. Now, surprisingly, I'm not against it. Yeah, FOP went downhill because it went on too long, but it's also a show you can do literally anything you want with its premise. And maybe a fresh coat of paint and a change of a status quo is what we need. Let's see if A New Wish did bring the magic back to the franchise. Now, the thing that people are probably gonna notice the most off the bat, we don't have Timmy Turner anymore, we got Hazel Wells. Now, I've seen people upset that Timmy's now replaced with a little black girl. Personally, I'm much more concerned as he's inexplicably dressed exactly like Frisk from Undertale. But in all seriousness, I'm actually glad they did it. If this is a reboot, we need to change up some things. The old show ran its course as there's something new, a new main character with new dynamics and relationship to keep things fresh and interesting. Believe me, I'm sure people will be upset if we just got another series exactly as before with Timmy, if people complain the original went on too long, so I'm more than happy with this. Besides, isn't a huge point of Fairly Odd Parents is that Timmy eventually is going to have to grow up and lose his godparents, as they'll move on to another kid who needs their help? Isn't that the entire reason we like Channel Teacher's ending? I'm just saying, it makes sense. Plus there's a new art style, and honestly, I kinda love it. It's like a fusion between the old style, but like also combined with the Big Nate show. As the guy who's obsessed with shading and lighting, I find it really aesthetically pleasing, and like, yeah, let's do something new with the animation. I love how so many of these shots look, and the Fairly Odd Parents has a reputation for not having the best animation, largely hidden behind its stylization and writing. Admittedly, some animation can look kinda janky, but I consider it inevitable trying to recreate the art style in 3D. They even added squats and stretch and smear frames in 3D, that's really impressive, especially on a TV budget. I really can't tell how much is 3D'd and which is hand-drawn, it's pretty admirable. It even references the old style in the title cards, which I do appreciate. So yeah, I welcome both of these. And I even like the theme song, it's pretty smooth, though it can't compare to the iconic original, but still a pretty good remix.
Odd parents, Fairly Odd Parents.
Ones and wings!
Cloudy Crowley days!
Fish fry, pizza fries, Hemi farting, dirt bike ride, Goose Scoots, Ranger Roof, periodic side moves!
To the show itself, we get a proper introduction, unlike the original, which is still takes place in Dimmodelphia, not Dimsdale. And Hazel's our new main character, recently moved here, with her family unusual fish out of water storyline, but she also misses her brother Anthony a lot, who she considers her closest friend who left the college. Now, Hazel I consider to be very different to Timmy. Timmy was a dorky, yet very cynical kid who loudly speaks his mind and would get annoyed very easily, largely because he keeps getting pushed around by life, which is one of the reasons why he makes such impulsive wishes, because he wants to make his life better. After all, he is just an average kid that no one understands. Honestly, he's not too different from Greg Heffley. Though, it's that cynicism that not only makes him stand out and contribute to the humor of the show, but makes it more realistic to why Tim will make the wishes in each episode when he's sick of what happens to him. Though, at the same time, it is kind of hard to buy him as a kid, like, dude, you're 10, stop acting all emo, wait till you're 13. On the other hand, Hazel I feel is more like a kid. First of all, she's a weirdo. But again, I like it to change these up for the reboot. Instead, a lot of her actions are defined by her emotional immaturity and impulsiveness and a bit of misplaced optimism. Honestly, I feel like she was a better Chloe in execution. In the first episode, it really felt rooted in her emotional immaturity, as it feels that without Anthony, she doesn't have anyone who really helps and gets her as much as her parents try to. And that's kind of another thing. One of the reasons why Timmy got fairies was that his parents never really gave him the time of day and left him with a sadist for a babysitter practically every day. It's definitely talked a lot on how horrible parents the Turners are, but honestly, it entirely depends on the episode. Sometimes they're loving, sometimes they practically hate him.
Do you want to be stuck here alone with the boy again? My dreams were shattered years ago.
How many years ago?
How old are you?
In fact, I might make a video on it eventually. But it does imply they somewhat ignore, so it's not like it's not there. Cosmo and Wanda show up and give them a gift, though disguised as humans, as it shows in a time skip where it's revealed that they're retired, probably after Timmy grew, and are living in the same apartment, and welcome them in, and do a bit of magic which only Hazel notices. Also, I love Darren Norris, but man, his Cosmo voice has become too high-pitched and grating.
I was screaming because I just realized when I got married I said, "Till death do us part." And since I'm immortal, that's forever.
No! Since when? Did you fail the physical?
I do think, though, Butch confirmed it was largely by directing, so it's not his fault. And Wanda is kinda different, but it has been 20 years, so I cut her some slack. However, Hazel's father is a paranormal scientist, causing Cosmo and Wanda to get worried as they leave. Which implies that Hazel's fathers might be the show's version of Crocker, which would be a neat way to do it with tying it into her family, which has arguably ever happened once before.
Can't you all comprehend that?
What?
But Crocker was the original show's main antagonist by his threat level, so it's definitely going to come back in future conflicts. But Hazel has a hard time fitting in at school, with a bit of that classic cynical edge of the original show, but more importantly, meeting Dev, who is the grandson of the greatest and funniest character of all time, Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
Doug Dimmadome? The owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome?
That's right, Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
They even reference Dale Dimmadome as its father, which is a pretty tight continuity nod. He seems to be like Hazel's version of Randy Bucks Aplenty, but as a fellow schoolmate, being an obnoxious jerk with their wealth. Also, we get a look at other kids who may or may not get more prominence later in the show. But after Anthony can't visit them, Hazel wants to pull a Riley from Inside Out and leave to see him herself, which Cosmo and Wanda are concerned about and see through her scheme and try to stop her, with their issues reigniting their old godparent urges. And admittedly, the humor of the show isn't as sharp or cynical as the original, but this joke floors me. Yeah, it kind of feels right out of the original. Also, it's not Timmy, it's confirmed this is a reference. Speaking of, they also call back to the original here, even referencing the pilot, Deep Cut. But Hazel wishes she could fly to Anthony, which triggers Cosmo and Wanda's wish instinct to turn her into a fly, to her confusion, where Cosmo and Wanda are forced to spill the beans on who they really are. But it leads to a big chase sequence where Cosmo and Wanda have to chase after Fly Hazel, usually to get to Anthony. You know, it is kind of off-putting since Pop usually doesn't do these type of sequences, at least as far as I remember, and in this high-speed chase fashion, but it is a neat change of pace that also shows off more of the unique animation. Though, like, literally just use magic, guys, come on! But they use Hazel's little French fries, which was foreshadowed earlier, tying to the tightly knit and foreshadowed plot elements the original show had, to lure her back home and to turn her to normal. But I think that Hazel has the wish to be human again, kind of like the previous series, as one has to distract her parents, but also shows that they really don't know anything about acting like people. Also another joke the OG would have made.
Taxes?
They're necessary to a functioning society?
True.
But Hazel makes a break for it and ends up in the Venus flytrap the fairies give to the family in the beginning. Again, using something unexpected, but something I think Fop seriously doesn't get the credit for. It's one of the things that made this show, even if formulaic, still feel tightly written that everything does connect to the overlying plot even if you don't notice it, and it's always a surprising callback, and this show does it too. And inside the flytrap, Hazel has a random connection with a lost aunt conveniently named Tony. Yeah, Aunt Tony, insert Ant-Man reference here. And they tell her that, like them, even if their family has to be separated, their bones are still there, and they'll never forget each other. Which, wow, kinda giving me the feels here, show, in this wacko scenario. It's actually really good, I can't explain it here. I mean, the original show also had these moments of pulling your heartstrings, so it's not out of place, and honestly, I'm glad they showed they are capable of making emotional storytelling, so it's not just a soulless reboot. You might say they're getting way too on the nose with the moral, but then again, the original show did that plenty of times.
After my adventures today, I've learned to take more responsibility for my actions and face my fears instead of hiding behind my friends. Lesson learned. Dessert is great on occasion, but balanced diets are what keeps us all healthy. I also learned that sometimes I'm sorry can be the only magic words you need.
Hell, you can argue the entire series is pretty much telling you to be happy with what you have and to avoid the grass is greener mentality. But Hazel gets the two out of there in time, as with her epiphany, agrees to be turned back to normal. Also, I wonder if Anthony is gonna be like this season 1 overarching deal, like really building up his appearance, though I legit want the possible payoff. Later, Hazel tries to apologize and thank them for what happened before, but gets drawn by their apartment leading back to Furry World, which is really cool to see in this art style. And yeah, after everything they went through, Cosmo won on destroying her to return back to Godparent and help Hazel out through her childhood, which she gladly accepts as they make it official. Gotta say, it's a really unique way to have them meet up. They could've just done the same thing where Hazel's gifted the two to deal with their emotional issues like Timmy did, but instead they made them retired and coincidentally got involved with Hazel's issues, with their innate love of helping children, rekindling their godparent spirit with a misadventure, reinforcing their bond. It's a fun and new way to do it, which I really like. And yeah, I actually think this episode was pretty good. I was hesitant at first, of course, but everything really did come out better than I expected. It was a pretty good introduction to Hazel, showing off her unique personality and issues, as well as a few other characters, but also giving us what feels like a classic Period Parents plotline. I mean, we had some episodes like this before, but also had a unique spin on it as well, but also unifying a lot of the plot together and giving us some emotional moments as well. It was a pretty great introduction in all honesty. It made me hopeful for the rest of the series that they can keep that spirit. Now, the thing is that the series is still actively coming out and we have a handful of episodes to cover, which does make it hard to cover the series as a whole, and kinda why this video took a while to come out. So yeah, I wish I could see more episodes before I made this video. Like, I wonder what this Fisk guy's deal is, and the fact that it reminds me a lot of Ruby Gilman. So, things can change in the future, but it's just what I got from this show so far. And while I do think that the first episode was the best, largely due to its longer runtime and more focused plot, there were others I enjoyed fine. And I don't want to get into it too much, and I kind of encourage you to watch it for yourself. But we also see Jorgen von Strangle again, and he got a bit of a new design, now wearing an inexplicable sweater vest. Wait a minute, is that a reference to this scene?
There are no sweater vests in the Fairy Scouts.
But it's a girl magnet!
Ooh, really? That changes everything!
Also, DMV joke, which is always a sign of a good cartoon. Now, you may say that Hazel isn't miserable enough to deserve fairies, and I gotta say that the show never set any type of bar for that. I mean, let's not forget that Timmy got fairies primarily because Vicky put anchovies in his pizza. But even then, Remy got fairies because of his parental neglect, despite having everything else he could ever want.
Why should you get real parents and godparents that love you when I don't?
And Hazel's really not too far off with the new social alienation without her brother she was very close to. And besides, if freaking Chloe got godparents, anyone can get one. I was a bit concerned with how the show can handle the usual plots of the series. We did see a standard wish of Hazel being pushed to do an impulsive wish she didn't think through. That's good for a while until the consequences build up and she needs to undo it. However, at least in this instant, there wasn't added stakes by being unable to unwish it and need to find an established loophole to get over it, like how the original show did, which makes the plots more interesting and tight. Now again, we don't have enough episodes at the time of writing, so I don't know if that will change, but it's what I noticed. And also, the show is a bit slow paced compared to how quick the original moves, lightning fast between plots and jokes. But admittedly, that did become a notable problem in the later seasons where it moved too fast, where it sacrificed a lot of the quality and build up, so I'm not against it. Though also that the show kind of likes the original cynicism and snark, which is a good driver of its comedy and identity.
But she's never coming back!
Yay! We're going to be friends forever!
Well, you know what I think?
Who cares what you think? You're a girl now!
and pushed its plot by exaggerating the problems of childhood.
Dad, when do we get to the ride?
This is the ride! Yippee!
I mean, it's not entirely gone, there are some moments, but it is a notable comparison.
I suppose I could use the intercom, but then I wouldn't be able to see the looks of distress on your tiny faces, which is the best part of my job.
I don't know how much that's a loss as the last show I can really think had that sense of humor was gullible, and that ended a while ago.
Maybe your generation should have thought about our future before ruining the economy.
And the environment. And the education system.
Though I do hope it eventually is able to build some sort of edge or identity to help out its sense of humor and make it stand out. And yeah, it's too early to really say, but I think the show does recapture that spirit of the original show, and is arguably way better than how the show eventually ended up in the end of its run. I think it's exactly what the franchise needed. Just something new with the old formula, by starting from scratch and not desperately trying to be something it's not. I see plenty of people hating this show when it's changed before it even came out, but the episodes I saw, I think it's really for the best. It's the closest thing I've seen that captures the spirit of the original, and it brings back that charm that's been absent for so long, and kinda reminds me of why I love the original, and its new takes on the animation and world are very appreciated. Of course, the original still has the advantage in its humor and writing, but that's with multiple seasons and a different time frame, so let's not dismiss this one. I was pleasantly surprised with what I saw, and hope it can continue like this and get even better. It's gotten a pretty good start already, so hopefully they keep the momentum going. Yeah, sure, we all have grown up, but the magic isn't truly gone yet. Check it out for yourself. Hey, wait a minute. If Hazel can make a random wish and Cosmo and Wanda will grant it despite them not being her godparents, maybe I can do the same. I wish that YouTube gave my impressions back and spread my videos again. The magic in my life is really dead, isn't it?